Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday morning Mortgage Coach coaching call. Our goal every Tuesday is to deliver the mortgage industry's absolute best sales meeting. Connect as a community, learn new ideas, get focused on the week ahead. My name is Dave Savage. I'm the CEO of Mortgage Coach. I encourage everybody, connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with us on Facebook. If you're new to this call, this is your very first Mortgage Coach coaching call, make sure that you are connected with us in Facebook, because we're always posting not only what's new in our community, but we're posting referrals. It's been amazing to me how many Mortgage Coach loan officers are saying, hey, I need a loan officer in XYZ state, and we're pushing that forward. So there's valuable content, valuable conversations taking place. I am going to share a few things in today's call, so I already shared those in the announcement on Facebook. There's a link to download RateWatch. I'm going to talk about this Navy SEAL prep course, which I just, Dan, I'm going to do it right after I bring you into the call, but I think you guys are going to like it. Sorry if it's a little abstract. You'll know what I'm talking about in a minute. So some opening thoughts before I bring Dan Rawitch into the call are, first, every time that I share something or our special guest today shares something, I want you to ask yourself, am I doing that? Have I mastered that? And what results would prove that I have mastered that? Because I think we're going into a market that requires a new level of excellence, and I want to make sure everybody makes the most of this. So to frame Dan and frame some of the content we're going to bring in, we all know this, content or chaos creates opportunity. We've heard it 100 times. Leaders thrive in chaos. We've heard it. We know it. We really feel the pain of the last 2 months, what's happened with rates. We feel the pain of the last 10 days. Friday was not a fun Friday. It was just getting uglier and uglier. So we know all that, but what are we doing with all that? Are we really listening carefully to become masters so that we can have great conversations with realtors, great conversations with borrowers, and we can execute on that? Hey, I have mastered the concept of turning chaos into opportunity. So with that said, every morning Dan Rawitch creates a video that tells what's going on in the market. If you are hearing that for the first time, there's a download button at the bottom of that video, and there's a link on this coaching call. And with that said, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you and have you bring everybody up to speed on your perspectives on the market, what we should be saying to realtors, what we should be saying to home buyers, and what should we be telling our wives.
All right, I'm going to grab the screen real quick if you don't mind here.
It's yours.
All right. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good morning, Mortgage Coach. I'm happy to be here, Dave. Thanks for inviting me. I want to go through a couple things. It's a scary time, and if you're listening to the daily video, you know that, and you know that I don't take that lightly. And you know how much, I would say, even not empathy but sympathy I have for you because of all the years I spent as an originator and all the years I was a knucklehead and left loans unlocked. It's not a good feeling. I know that. And so anything that I say positive or about how much better it's going to get, it's not to diminish the pain you're in today. But I can't really make that go away. Only you can make that go away. So it is going to get better. This whole thing is a knee-jerk reaction, in my opinion. I'm going to be a little bit, I would say, what's the word? I'm going to be bold here. Barry Habib spoke at Mortgage in Mortgage Mastery in Las Vegas, and he talked about how housing is going to go up 20 or 30% every single year for the next whatever. And I'm paraphrasing. And I like Barry. He's a great guy, and he's a super smart guy. So when two people disagree on a point, it doesn't mean that one is smarter than the other. It just means they disagree. So I want to be careful about that. But I could not disagree more about what he said because he, too, is in a drug-induced trance. And what happened was yesterday, if you look at my second bullet point here, the Fed snapped everyone out of their trance. Not yesterday, but a couple weeks ago when we started talking about getting out of this rate environment that we're in and phasing out, everybody said, oh, my God, I'm a zombie. I forgot I was a zombie. I got to wake up and be a human now. And they weren't ready to wake up from that trance. Why? Because nothing's changed in the economy. It's all artificial. And I have some slides to prove that. to you. And because we're in this unprecedented time where we've never had such an artificially created or stimulated economy, never in my life have I seen anything like this. Rates moved faster than they have since 1962. So we have 51 years, more older than most of you, not quite older than me, but older than most of you. Have we not seen rates move this viciously and this savagely?
Easy so with the savage comment.
Oh, sorry, man, sorry.
It's okay, man. I like it. I take pride in that. I know.
That's who you are, brother. You're a savage. So I believe that housing is 100% dependent on low rates, and I'll show you why I believe that. I believe that virtually every asset class could collapse if the Fed exits now, and I believe that all of the trillions of dollars the Fed has spent in the past, what's been 5 years now of stimulus, will be out the window if he exits too early. So with that said, let's look at a couple things that are going on, and it's usually something like this that's going to drive massive change. This is the Shanghai index. This is what's happened over the last several trading sessions. I mean, that is clearly, okay, you guys know how to draw trend lines now. You've listened to me long enough. I could draw an arrow right up here, boom. So the trend was broken here at about 2.5, and then it's fallen through the roof. That was before there was talk about a Chinese credit crisis or a Chinese liquidity crisis, whatever you want to call it. Markets are calmer today because China has pledged to keep themselves out of a crisis. Well, guys, there's entire ghost towns, office buildings, empty everywhere because the Chinese government is hiding all of the facts from the world. And I believe that this is a fact they're not going to be able to hide. It's a fact right now that small to mid-sized businesses in China cannot get capital. So you're going to just see seriously restrained growth. You see major Wall Street firms downgrading China. And I've been saying all along that I think Spain would lead this sort of collapse. Maybe it's China, or maybe China pulls in Spain. Speaking of Spain, oops. These charts are what's called ETFs, electronically traded funds, and what they are is essentially they're funds of funds. So a lot of times, if I say I'm short something, and I am short Spain, how do you short a country? Well, this is how you short a country. iShares has an ETF under the symbol of EWP, and you can see it's fallen through support. And my sell order, my go short order was triggered at about 29. And so I believe that this continues its free fall because Spain is in trouble. And this, again, was created because of the Fed saying we're going to exit. This is real estate shares. I cut this off, but it's if you want to short real estate, this is a fund that owns only real estate investment trusts. So this is a fund of funds. It holds publicly traded real estate companies. Some are commercial, some are residential, but they're all real estate related. And so Barry Habib says real estate's going to the moon. Market says otherwise. Market says if the Fed backs out, because this is when they made their announcement right here, if the Fed backs out, all hell breaks loose. So we have temporary support right here. I drew this line yesterday. If we break through here, we're going to continue to fall. So if investors are bailing out a real estate fund, it's not very long until consumers say, whoa, I'm out too. I'm not trying to scare you, because what happens is this equilibrium is created by this momentary fear. Everybody freaks out, and then people run back to bonds. So we have to survive this very short-term, very painful period, and then people will flow back into bonds. Yesterday on CNBC last night, I was reading on their website, a couple of analysts that I really respect are saying, buy bonds. It's foolish to get out right now. Now's the time to get in. And if you listen to my thought of the day this morning on Rate Watch, I said the math is always wrong. The math is always wrong. So the math is saying let's get out of bonds. I'd say it's time to get in. And then this is the what is this? Oh, this is the same chart again. This is the iShares IYR, and again, this shows you this big fall. You can see this one better from 77 down to 64. A little bit of support around here, but I don't think that's going to hold. And then lastly, the S&P. Again, this is all of these asset classes. The bottom fell out as soon as the Fed said what he said. We're not ready for that to happen. Yesterday, a couple of Fed governors both said, well, wait a minute, we weren't saying we're getting out. We're saying we're going to get out later. That's what we've always said. Nothing has changed other than we snapped out of our drug-induced state. I think the Fed's going to administer some more drugs fast. I think I used up my time. Oh, do I have 2 more seconds, Dave?
Of course you have 2 more seconds, Dan. Finish the thoughts.
Okay. So I wanted to show you this. You guys have heard me talk about the VIX. The VIX is a place where traders run if they get scared. It's an index. When all hell breaks loose and we don't know where to go, we go to the VIX because the VIX is going to go up in times of uncertainty. If you looked at the VIX chart back in '09, you wouldn't believe it. It just went straight up through the roof. And as you can see, very often, as rates have so the bottom here is the the bottom here is the VIX index, and then up here the green are interest rates. So you can see, generally speaking, interest rates have gone up, fear has gone down. Why? Because interest rates go up when people are feeling good economic times. So we're not scared. It's good. Do you see how this divergence happens? Well, look what happened again when the Fed spoke. Interest rates went up and the VIX skyrocketed. This is not a sustainable model. Something has to fall, and I believe that what's going to fall again is interest rates. So I continue to be bullish. I just can't tell you what day they go down and how you wish I could do that.
Right on. So Dan, I hope you stay on this call for at least 5 more minutes. I want to share a few thoughts, and I would like to get your feedback after I share those thoughts. Can you stay for? And if you can stay for the whole call, feel free. You're invited to be my co-host. But I want to remind everybody: every morning, Dan is providing a 3 to 6 minute video breaking down what's happening in the market, interpreting that for you quickly, concisely, and in a way that helps you be a leader to your borrowers, to your realtors, to home buyers. So pay attention, tune in, watch it. So let's frame some of this. What does this all mean? So I love this. I pulled this from Coach Bill Hart's website over the weekend, and I think it just says it all. There's things that matter. There's things that we can control. And by the way, there's a whole lot of things that matter that we can't control, and a whole lot of things that we just can't control that don't matter. What do we focus on? Especially in a market like this, we got to focus on what matters and what we can control. And the rest of this call is about what we can control. So I'm not going to do the survey question because I want to bring in our guest. I want to get to the content quick. But I do want you guys to ask yourselves on this call, did you pay attention to Rate Watch last week? Do you even have it installed? You know what? You can control that. You could be watching that. You could be paying attention to that. It could be valuable to you. You could be more of a leader. And in today's market, we need to be. I also want to ask you, did you know that you could just drag your mouse over Rate Watch and put it into an email so that you can provide clarity and leadership to your realtors and to your borrowers. So when you're telling them that, hey, rates went up a half a point last week, you're not just telling them, you're showing them. So I want to remind everybody you have that. And by the way, did you know that you could do that? If you didn't know that you could do that, I'm going to tell you a lot of ways by the end of the call that you can know how to do the right things. Because at Mortgage Coach, we're all about helping you be a leader, helping you create order out of chaos. One of those ways is the Rate Watch tool. You're all members. I'm not selling you on it. I'm just hopefully I'm connecting to why you should be using this tool. Everybody on this call has access to Edge. Now you have a way of connecting with home buyers where they need it most, which is in their homes, when they're out looking at properties, having conversations with realtors. In the moment where decisions are made, you're able to connect and deliver leadership. We've worked hard to bring this leadership to you, whether it's a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, so you can bring clarity, you can bring advice. It's all about leadership, and we're all about helping you focus on that. So as I bring in the guest, and Dan, I want to get one last kind of thoughts from you. You know, will you achieve your goals this year? It really depends on you. Most everybody on this call had a record-breaking year last year. Everybody I know planned on another record-breaking year this year. I still believe that that's in our sights, but we've got to stay focused on the annual goal, the monthly goal, and we got to bring it down to today. So keep calm, focus on what can you control, what's a win today. And I really, 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 really hope everybody on this call, you're focused on the core mortgage coach strategies. Every Thursday, we have a very tactical call. So this Thursday, and I'm going to tell everybody how to get signed up for it, there's a call that you can be on. So if you don't have RateWatch, if you don't know how to do a move-up analysis, if you don't know how to do the why buy now, which has never been easier to sell, it's here. So you can win the day. I love this quote. So by the way, Dan, any thoughts as I kind of wrap this around RateWatch, Mortgage Coach Edge? Do you agree? I mean, is this good advice for loan officers?
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't know if he's on the call, but Scott Nicholson, a lot of you guys know, he's always been a master around this. I've watched him. You know, I was doing the daily videos every day for RateWatch. Scott and I have worked together for years, and I would see him cutting and pasting the chart and sending those emails all day long to clients. Look what just happened. Look what just happened. He's constantly creating urgency with these emails. It just makes you look smarter than your competition. It makes you look credible, and it's so easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 1 minute, but you have to be clear on why. I'm doing it because if you want to have a record-breaking year, if you want to achieve your goals, you need to be smart. You need to be a Navy SEAL loan officer. So real quick, every Thursday, again, Tuesday, it's about a sales meeting around motivation, around ideas and strategies. Every Thursday, it's about executing those ideas. So there's a recorded version of last week's Thursday call with Jacob. If you haven't signed up for that, you know, just go to the community tab on our website and sign up for that. Every single Thursday, we are there to provide with Tuesdays, inspiration and strategy and ideas. Thursdays, this is how you get it done. This is how you implement it every day. So I'm going to bring in our guest. This is the third time Mr. Daniel Gold has been a guest on our call. I'm really excited because it's really timely. He's going to tell you how to take this content that we shared just now, all these ideas that Dan has, and how to build a platform in your local market. I do want to remind everybody before I bring Daniel in, don't just say, oh, I know that, oh, I've heard that. Are you doing it? Have you mastered it? And what results in your business would prove that you've mastered that? So with that said, Mr. Daniel Gold, some of the folks on the call may not have been on one of your past coaching calls. If you could just frame who you are, your story a bit, and let's roll.
Absolutely. How are you, Dave, and how's everyone else doing today? Hoping that you can hear me well.
I can hear you well, my friend.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you let me know if you can see my screen.
If you could switch screens real quick. There you go. I can see it perfectly.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, good. Well, again, good afternoon, and I'll tell you what a great segue for my talk, talking about leadership and being an expert. Those are a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about during the next 35 minutes. So very excited about that. And again, I said to you in the pre-call, Dave, it's nice to be back here, like you said, for the third time. It's really nice talking to everyone here because you have a very engaging audience. And today I'm going to be talking about becoming a difference maker. And so first, let's talk about what we're going to be doing during our time here today. I'm going to focus in on two things, just two. The first is how to build a system. Dave was kind of laying out some of those strategies on the front end before I started talking. So I'm going to talk about how to be able to build a system that's going to lead you to future-proof success, help you become much more productive, much more effective, and help you win more business. And then second, we're going to talk about how to help you build a platform like I have. But before I get going too far in this, I want to give you a little bit more context about who I am and what I do and why that's relevant for our time here together today. So first, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I live here with the wife and 3 kids and the dog. And believe it or not, I actually have 6 backyard chickens, but that's a topic for another conversation, another mortgage coach call. But I grew up in New Jersey, went to college in Ithaca College in upstate New York. And I was actually a broadcast journalism major. I was in front of the camera. I was in TV shows and doing news programming as well as the radio. But something strange happened because I actually ended up in law school. Despite my liberal arts background, I went to law school. So by background, I am a lawyer. In fact, after I graduated from law school, I went ahead and I did a 1-year clerkship for a judge in the Superior Court of New Jersey in Monmouth County, if any of you are familiar with New Jersey. And after that 1 year ended, I was a trial lawyer, right there actually on the corner of Sheriff and Main Street. So for all of you on the call, I'm sure you can imagine how convenient it was for me to be a plaintiff's lawyer right next to Sheriff Street. Well, after I had practiced for some time, I decided that I wanted to make the switch from the practice of law more to the business side of the house. And that's when I went to go work for LexisNexis. And it is a global legal information company. And one of the things that we specialize in is litigation software technology. And I actually oversee, in my current capacity, I oversee that litigation software portfolio for all of the largest law firms that are headquartered throughout the Southeast. And over the course of my 7 years, I've displayed my leadership there with the numerous accolades that I've received, and I feel quite blessed to have received those accolades. But it is as a result of building a system that we're going to be talking about today. And as a result of building the system, and as a result of seeing success as a result of that system, I also built a side business around this wow factor that Dave has talked about on some other mortgage coach calls. And that's how Dave knows about me, because of this side productivity business. And what I did was, it's not just blog, but I ended up writing 3 productivity books. And the one that I'm most well known for is being the author of the unofficial Evernote guide, which we'll talk about soon. I've written one on SpringPad, and I've also written one on how to create lasting and successful habits. But as a result of those books, what happened was I started building up this platform. Those books ended up leading to public speaking opportunities that I had on productivity. And I started going across the country and I started speaking to organizations and companies about how to become more productive and more successful. That resulted in me becoming a productivity consultant as well on the side, from CEOs to some of the largest investment companies, to one of the most successful advertising agencies across the country, to small business owners as well as individuals. So there's a little bit about me and what it is that I do both during my day job and at night, if you will. So let's talk about why I'm here. The reason why Dave wanted me to come to talk with all of you today is to really help all of you do one thing right. And it's to help all of you become a difference maker. So let's first start off about talking about how to be able to build your system. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with all of you on this call, and we have over 300 of you on this call right now that I see. And this journey for me, this journey has not been easy. When I first started out and I made that transition from the practice of law to the business side, I was instantly overwhelmed with the amount of work that I had to do. So much so, in fact, that what I realized was this is an entirely different skill set that I needed to master that I didn't have while I was practicing law. And that certainly I needed to be able to successfully oversee 150 different accounts in 8 different states across the Southeast and grow the business, maintain the business. And all of the time, it's just I felt like I was overwhelmed. I felt like this really just all of the time. I felt like I was drowning. I could never get my head above water. I was trying various different systems to help me become more productive, to help me become more efficient, more successful. And instead what I found was that I was constantly drowning. I was living in Outlook's inbox. The tasks that I had in Outlook were consistently being read. I missed some appointments. I overbooked myself. And this was all in the very beginning. The reality is that this job is a great job to have, and I should be feeling like this all of the time. And so the thing is that, the art side of selling, we've got the art and the science, and the art side of selling was that ideas were never the problem for me. I was consistently coming up with what I thought were to be very good ideas. But the problem was with all of these ideas is that they lived in eternity on sticky notes, index cards, and various different Microsoft Word memos I was writing to myself that would live on my computer. So I never followed through with some of these ideas that I have. I never executed upon these ideas. And I felt deep down that if I had a better system, that things could go better for me. So what I realized I needed a structure. I needed a process. I needed a workflow. to help me with the science aspect of things, to help me become much more productive. And that is when I found him. And if you're not familiar with this, the smiling mug over here, this is David Allen. And David Allen is a productivity expert. He's a guru, somewhat of a cult-like following he's got with a book that he created some years ago called Getting Things Done. And the book Getting Things Done was exactly what it was that I needed to help me build my system.
Hey, Daniel?
Yes.
Hey, real quick, I just want to insert something real quick, because everybody on this call, you guys all know Tim Brahim and the type of success he had as an originator, as an entrepreneur. I mean, this was his guru. I mean, he actually flew David Allen out to his home, spent days, building his system around this. This is what I've used personally for 5+ years. Again, if you have not heard of this person or this book, it is just required reading for anybody and everybody committed and serious about being as productive as they can with their time. So I just want to throw that in there. Go ahead.
What a great way to really hone in and really bolster that thought is that, yeah, so members of your own community are doing this. I know Dave and I, we actually met as a result of our shared interest with getting things done. And it fundamentally shook the very essence of what it meant for me to be productive. Everything that I thought about what it means to be productive was thrown out the window after I read this book. So I'll high level out for you basically what the system is. It really is about taking a laundry list of tasks that you have and compartmentalizing them into various buckets. So what I mean by that is taking a look at all of your tasks, and you've got a bucket of emails. All right, so emails you need to send, emails you need to respond to. You've got a bucket of telephone calls that you need to make, or that you have to call back someone that called you. You've got a bucket of things that you can only do on the computer. Right? So for example, making those awesome edge videos that you guys have at your disposal, copying and pasting those rate watch things that we were talking about before, putting those into an email and sending them out to prospects and current clients. Okay? And also a bucket of things that you are waiting for. In other words, I delegate a lot of tasks out to colleagues and the people that I work with, but I also send out emails to prospects and to customers, and although I've got a list that I'm waiting to hear back from them as well. So the idea with getting things done is you put everything into these various buckets, or what he calls contexts. So then the idea is then, well, take a look at each of those lists and cherry pick which ones that you have to get done today. Put together a list of things that what must absolutely go right in order for you to have a successful day. So how do you do that? Well, the best way of being able to do that is to weigh what you want to get done against your daily calendar. So there's a screenshot of what my calendar looked like on Wednesday last week. And I'll tell you what, I hardly had any time in my calendar. So the idea is to balance what you currently have going on in your day with what you want to be able to get done. Because the goal here is to set yourself up for success as opposed to setting yourself up for failure. So you want to make sure that those things that you want to get done, you have time to get them done, and then block out your calendar to get them done. So if I have, let's say, only a half an hour of free time and it takes me an hour to do an edge video, well then it doesn't make any sense to do the edge video today. It's going to have to wait till tomorrow or maybe sometime late at night. Okay? So there's basically the core ideas behind the Getting Things Done methodology. One of the things that David Allen talks about is having a trusted system to put each of these buckets into. So I needed a trusted system, and after doing some research, that's when I found this, Evernote.
It's 9:30.
Well, over here it's 12:30. So what I needed was this app called Evernote. And so essentially what Evernote does is it helps over 50 million people across the globe remember everything. Now, at its core, Evernote is essentially a simple note-taking app. But when you start digging down a little bit more, it is so much more. You could save everything into Evernote and basically allow it to become your central repository for handling all of documents. Like you can highlight web clippings and send them immediately over to Evernote. PDF files, customer literature, maybe even store some of your Edge videos into Evernote, Word files, important emails you need to reference later, Excel spreadsheets. You can become paperless with Evernote, as most modern-day scanners all integrate effortlessly into Evernote. And they even partnered up with the famous Moleskine notebook company to create an analog way of being able to capture all of your notes and get them into Evernote. So you can see that there's a lot that you can possibly do with Evernote, and it's the reason why 50 million people, including myself and Dave, turned to Evernote to help us remember everything. And what's really powerful about Evernote is that it truly is available everywhere. You've got the desktop apps for the Mac and PC. It's available on the web and also in every single mobile platform for both phones as well as tablets. Right. But then what I realized was, okay, I could store everything in here, and that's very powerful. But then I realized I could take all of those tasks that I have in Microsoft Outlook and start bringing all those tasks over into Evernote, right? Especially all of those red ones, to be able to manage my tasks more effectively. So as opposed to living in my inbox, I can start taking things out of my inbox, take things out of my tasks, right, and put them into Evernote, and then figure out a way to tie back all of my reference-related material to those contexts. In other words, I provided context about the tasks that I have to get done. So all of those buckets, my emails, the computer, all of the phone calls I have to make, all of those things became far more effective when I figured out how to be able to centralize all this information into Evernote. But there was one missing element that was important to my system, and that was being able to be accountable not only for when I say I'm going to follow up with somebody, but holding others accountable for when they say they're going to follow up with me. And that's when I found followupthen.com, and I know the owners of the company. They're really fantastic individuals. I talk about Follow Up Then in my book, and in essence, what followupthen.com allows you to do is to send an email to Follow Up Then at any time increment that you want to be reminded of something. So for example, as you can see from the screenshot, I knew that I had to create this mortgage coach presentation. So I emailed right out of Evernote to 2days@followupthen.com, which basically meant in 2 days I was going to receive an email notification from followupthen.com reminding me that I have to go ahead and create this presentation for Dave's call today. I do this for emails that come in my inbox. It helps me stay accountable to other people, and that helps me deliver on my promises, but it also allows me to, again, hold other people accountable. And if a prospect or a customer says to me, you know, I'm not interested right now, follow up with me in 2 weeks, perfect. Send a note, 2weeks@followupthen.com. You know what, Daniel, I'm really not interested right now, follow up with me at the end of the quarter, great. I send an email, 3 months@followupthen.com. You can even do, you know, Thursday at 3 p.m. at followupthen.com. So you guys get the idea. And it's one of the reasons why I've been dubbed internally at my company as the follow-up king. Very simple, very powerful, very effective. Mix it in with Evernote, it becomes even more powerful. And so Evernote has quite literally become my second brain. And for those of you who are watching the slides right now, hopefully I'll take into account some of my hot humor as well. All right? So quite literally has helped me in every single aspect, both at work and at home and everything in between. So when Dave had said before about, am I going to reach my goals this year? You know, when you start building a system that it becomes, you know, future-proof, and it becomes simple, and it becomes effective, and becomes routine, answering the questions like, will I meet my goals this year? Will I meet my goals this quarter? Will I meet my goals this month? Or how about this week? Or am I going to even meet my goals today? All of those questions become much easier to answer. They became much easier to answer for me because now I had structure tied behind my systems. And I had a process, and I had a workflow. And the most important piece of it all is now I can apply the art to the science of selling and really begin to wow, you know, customers and prospects, and even begin to wow my colleagues internally with what I was doing. So what was one way that I could figure out how to wow people better? And this whole concept of wow again, Dave, you talked about it on other mortgage coach calls I listened into in preparing for today's presentation. And when you establish a wow, it really helps, as you say, to really help differentiate you from all the other mortgage professionals out there in the marketplace. And the number one way I realized that I could wow people is through giving greater presentations, more effective presentations. Because look, here's the reality. Most presentations that everybody sees today, they're awful. They suck, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what line of business you're in. A lot of presentations that we go to, they all look like this. And you know what? I've been guilty at the very beginning of giving a presentation not clearly this bad, but it's not even our fault, right? You know, Microsoft PowerPoint and also on the Apple Keynote, they create these templates that are designed to create bullet points. And so what we have is, and I've seen it internally, and they're terrible. We've got these awful diagrams, awful charts. We've got a 1983 clip art. We have 12-point font and 10 different bullet points. You know, basically, you have a document on a slide, and you've got people in the third row that are squinting in order to see your content. And there's no way that somebody can concentrate on what material, the content you have on your slide, and with what you're saying. The brain doesn't work that way. And so if you give a presentation that looks like this, ultimately, you're going to have an audience that looks like this, something I like to call presentation coma. And I guarantee you, if you are in a room one-on-one or over the phone with somebody, or you're over the phone doing a webinar or in the person in front of 5, 10, 15, 20, or even 200 people, you have lost prospects. You have lost customers because no matter how persuasive your message is, it's going to get lost with a bad slide. Right? So I figured out that that is something that I could do better. That's how I can wow. That's how I could apply an art and science together. And that is when I found him. This guy, his name is Gar Reynolds. And just the way David Allen shook the very essence of what it meant to be productive for me with his getting things done methodology, Gar Reynolds shook the very essence of what it meant for me to create great content on a slide. And he authored this book called Presentation Zen. And Presentation Zen, I highly recommend, just as David had said, to go out and purchase Getting Things Done, purchase this book. And if you purchase this book, and I would recommend doing it in paperback, excuse me, instead of over Kindles, because you can really visually see what Gar Reynolds is laying out for you. And he lays out for the layperson how to design great content on a slide. And the outcome of which, the effect of reading his book, is very much what all of you are seeing on the slides here today. You know, creating big headlines, giving white space, right? Letting the slide breathe a little bit. And it was through Gar Reynolds that actually I came across her. And her name is Nancy Duarte. Now, you may not have heard of Nancy Duarte, but what you may have heard of is one of her clients that she helped, and that is Al Gore. That's right. She and her company helped Al Gore create the slides for the Inconvenient Truth deck, which won a small award called the Academy Award. And she has an incredibly powerful book called The Slideology. So my recommendation is definitely go out and get Presentation Zen. Yeah.
Daniel, hey, I just, again, wanted to put another endorsement. Not only is this a book that I've read, I have been to Nancy's 2-day boot camp. I actually had Duarte create a presentation years ago for us. And guys, I mean, can't emphasize enough, this is the best presentations in the world. They've either had a hand in creating them or someone that did create them was influenced by this book. So when it comes to telling stories, now, again, one thing that's core and everybody on this call has in common, you have Mortgage Coach. So that borrower presentation, we created it for you. But when you're giving a sales meeting to a group of realtors and you want to have slides, it's so easy and simple to blow people's mind if you just know how to do it. And so great book that will help you as you prepare for meetings with realtors, home buyer seminars. You want to have better slides? It's pretty much just simple. Read this book, work on your skills over the course of time, no extra hours. You can improve your ability to execute by tenfold. So another huge endorsement for another amazing book. Go ahead.
That's so interesting, Dave. I actually didn't know that you commissioned Nancy and her company. That is awesome. We have more in common than I thought, Dave. In addition to this book...
by the way, I was referred to her by Guy. So I started reading his book many years ago, and I tried to hire him, and he's like, Nancy's your person. So we have been touched by the same people, my friend.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, one of the people that was also really touched me is this guy, this jolly-looking fellow on the screen over here. His name is Dr. John Medina, and he wrote the book that he's holding in his hands called Brain Rules. Now, what in the world would I be doing reading a book called Brain Rules when I'm not in the field of science at all, and this guy is? And the answer is Gar and Nancy and Guy Kawasaki, they've referenced in the past Dr. Medina's book. Again, very short read, highly powerful. The reason why you want to read this book is because it's going to help you understand what the listener of your message is thinking and how the brain really works and how they convey the material that you present to them. So that's how I learned that giving off those slides, right, you're going to lose that. You're going to lose business very easily. And as Dave just said, one of the best things you could do is just spend a little bit of time and energy to create meaningful slides. Right? The other thing that Dr. Medina says is that you got to break up your content in every 10-minute increments. Otherwise, you start to lose their attention. Personally, I feel like my attention is every 30 seconds, but Dr. Medina says it's about every 10 minutes. So look, here's what happened. Right? As a result of doing this, I became much more intentional about my content. Right? I became much more meaningful about the slides, and I became much more creative. So I was able to take slide decks that look like this, which are terrible, terrible templates, 12-point font, terrible colors, terrible clip art in here, and I was able to turn them into these beautiful looking slides, all as a result of reading both Gar's book and Nancy's book. And if you're not going to listen to me, listen to Dave. Right? This really helps. So why in the world would you want to do this? Well, Dave nailed it. Right? It's going to help you make more money. I will tell you that it has helped me make more money. Right? It has helped me become a much more credible voice and a trusted advisor to my customers because they see that I'm passionate about what I'm talking about, but more to the point is that they're listening to me as the main actor on the stage as opposed to the slide deck behind me. The slides are only supposed to help as the supporting actor, not as the main actor. And so internally at my company, I became the go-to guy for presentations. I became the guy who's doing all of the national webinars in my area, my practice group. And it's the reason why I have all these accolades that I have at my current company is because of the way I've been designing these presentations. It's because I put together a system. So with that being said, I want to transition into the second part of my presentation, building a platform.
So, hey, I want to frame this also. So first of all, everybody, I hope the dots are being connected. It's a wild time in our industry. There's huge opportunity. To harness that opportunity, we need to win the day. And to win the day, we need to have structure and focus, and we need to be able to implement the ideas and strategies that drive us. So we also, and again, Daniel, you're just amazing. You took a lot of time to take what you know, what you teach in a different venue, and customize it for our community, for mortgage professionals. I want you to know that I'm grateful. It's obvious how much you have packaged this for our group, so thank you. I want everybody to take that now, and hopefully that's all clear and obvious why you're learning all this right now. And now you got to build a platform. You got to take that to your local market. So in your local market, you need to build a platform. And so Daniel has done an amazing job of not only learning systems, using systems to the point where he's a teacher, and now he's built a platform in that venue. He's going to share some insights that hopefully if you listen and you master these things, you're going to kill it. Regardless of what happens to interest rates, you're going to dominate your local market. So I just wanted to frame that a little bit. You're doing a great job. Let's continue.
Well, what a great way to segue, Dave. And you're right. Even in the economic downturn of 2009, I remember being able to build my platform still and being able to be this go-to guy. Even when the economy completely tanked, I still found ways of being able to be more creative, and I was able to do that because of the system I put in place. And as you were saying, David, in becoming a teacher, one of the things I wanted to do was to share my tips, my tricks, my best practices with the world. So I joined the ranks of millions out there, and I started a blog. And I started the blog probably about 2008. and I never really paid too much attention to it. I just blogged about productivity, about Evernote, about getting things done, about leadership, technology. And suddenly I started paying attention to the stats, and I realized that every time I talked about productivity, I talked about Evernote, when I talked about getting things done, the stats began to increase. And I said, how about that? That's an interesting trend. And so I paid attention to the stats. I listened to what my community wanted me to talk about, my little tribe. I cared about what they wanted to hear more about. And I began to deliver on that content that they obviously wanted me to talk about more. So notwithstanding my own personal interest in maybe talking about leadership, it didn't matter. They wanted me to talk about productivity, and so I did. And I would say probably in about 2011, I realized that there's a ton of forums out there and communities and blogs that all talk about getting things done and Evernote and marrying the two systems together. But nobody ever actually wrote a book about it. In fact, the only book in 2011 on Evernote that existed in English was Brett Kelly's Evernote Essentials book. And that's a great tactical how-to guide. But as a tactical how-to guide, it's not how to elevate your level of living and be more successful by putting a system in place with Evernote. So I had this crazy notion in 2011 I was going to write a book. And my wife did, in fact, think I was crazy for wanting to do this. But I found white space, and I found where there was white space, there could potentially be a big opportunity for me. So I began to write a book that leveraged both Evernote and the Getting Things Done methodology together. And I reached out to the Evernote management team. I reached out to the Getting Things Done David Allen Company team, told them about what I wanted to do, got their green light for me to talk about their systems and their app together. And this is what the book looks like. It's called Evernote, the unofficial guide to capturing everything and getting things done. And it's for sale in the Evernote store called The Trunk, which is a link right back to my website, degconsulting.net. It's for sale on Amazon. And I think what amazed me, and especially amazed my wife most of all, is that in 12 months of selling this book, right, there were over 13,000 people worldwide that bought it. To this day, I'm still amazed. So I decided to leverage the success of the Evernote book, and I decided to write another book. And this time, to write a book on SpringPad, another note-taking app that was out there. And I partnered with that company and wrote a book called Simplify Your Life with SpringPad, again, leveraging the Getting Things Done methodology with the app called SpringPad. And in 7 months' time, I was able to sell over 500 copies. And so often I get this question, well, how did you possibly do that, Daniel? I mean, truly, if you think about it, I went from being a no one and a nothing and a nobody who just decided to write a blog one day, to this. And the answer, quite simply, is I built a platform. Dave's talked about on other mortgage coach calls about this idea of this home base. My home base is my website. So if you go over to my website, there's 3 things you'll find out about me. Is that I portray myself as being an expert in productivity as an author, as a speaker, and as a coach. But more importantly is that no matter where you go, even if you don't land on my website, I've created what Dave has also talked about, which is several outposts. So those outposts include social media. So I'm on Twitter. If you go over to Twitter, you can see that the DEG Consulting, it looks exactly the same as it does on my home base, my website. My picture is exactly the same. If you go over to Facebook, you'll find me, DEG Consulting. Again, the tagline, the font, my picture, everything is consistent. Google Plus, where my core audience really lives, same idea. Right? LinkedIn, which I think is a much more professional outpost, you'll find my information over there as well. And then if you go over to YouTube, you'll find my videos. If you go over to SoundCloud, you'll find audio files. Right? If you go over to slideshare.net, you'll find some of my presentations. And if you go over to lifehack.org, a popular productivity website, you'll see that I'm a guest author there. And if you go over to attorneyatwork.com, you'll see that I have a monthly column in which I write about productivity for lawyers. And if you go over to Pinterest, you'll see that I share some of my favorite web clippings. And again, the idea is, there's more outposts than this. The idea is that no matter where you go in the web, I've made it strategically possible so that you will be able to find me, so that you will see that I'm regarded as an expert in productivity, that I display my leadership through both the posts, my columns, my videos, the audio, and my slides. That, as a result, had led me to an additional step up in my platform. And earlier in the year, I had a well-known podcaster named Andy Traub reach out to me and said to me, hey, look, I know a little bit about Evernote, but I know a whole lot about podcasting. Do you ever think about getting into the podcasting business? And of course I had, just hadn't figured out technically how to do it. But I teamed up with Andy, and we created The Productive Life Show. You can find us at theproductivelifeshow.com. And through the last several months, I've interviewed some of the biggest names in the productivity space, some of the most well-known experts that are out there, as a result of being able to build my home base and all of those outposts I just talked about. And I think what I'm particularly excited about is the most recent one that I could talk about, and that is I've now taken over, well, officially in August, I'll be taking over the GTD Virtual Study Group podcast. Tara Robinson, who's also a productivity coach, has been successfully leading this podcast for the last 7 years, and she asked me to kind of be her Jay Leno, if you will, for her Johnny Carson. And it's incredible because this is a highly successful podcast in the productivity space, and it's a great opportunity and a great way of being able to showcase my platform. But some of you might be thinking, and rightfully so, but you know what, Daniel? Look, I just don't have the time to be a social media expert. Look, here's the reality, folks. Either do I. Right? But I did pick up a couple tips and tricks along the way that has enabled me to do so. And look, you don't need to be like Coca-Cola, who spends millions and millions each year, and several social media managers to help them build their outposts. You guys already have tools at your disposal at Mortgage Coach. You guys have this great web app called Social Pro that helps you build your social presence for you. I took a look at this. That's pretty incredible, and quite honestly, I wish I had something like that myself. You guys have RateWatch. You guys have Edge. You guys have great tools in your toolbox already at your disposal, and the reality is, and the old adage is true, as cliche and corny as it might sound, is that, look, if I can do it, so can you. You've already heard my story, right? So I can help. And it's very simple. It's about engaging with your audience. Right? It's about listening to what it is that they want to hear. It's about connecting with them at a personal level. And you guys are probably one of the best businesses to do so, being in the mortgage industry. It's about caring about what they care about. It's about collaborating with people. And it's about stories. So if you haven't been jotting some notes down, here's a good time to do it. I'm going to give you 6 simple rules to help build your social media platform. Rule number 1 is create emotion with images. If you go onto Twitter, onto Facebook, and you flip your thumb through or flip with your mouse to look through all the postings that are out there, I guarantee you are more likely to stop when you see emotional images as opposed to just text. So even if you just have a simple text like, hey, mortgage rates at an all-time low, put in an image. Even if you do have a link to a website, create emotion with images. And again, you guys are probably by far in one of the best industries to do this because there's nothing more personal than being able to buy a house or refinance a house so you can afford it better. Right? So there's so many emotional images that you guys can put out there. And rule number 2 is find great content and post it. So how do you find this great content? One of the ways is by using a web app called Feedly. Feedly is really taking over for Google Reader, and if you haven't been following the news, Google Reader is being shut down. Feedly is becoming really the new standard. It's available on the web and on all of your mobile platforms, and it's basically a news aggregator, an RSS feed aggregator, and it allows you to be able to bring in content that you already follow, blogs that you follow, or newspaper websites you already follow, as well as be able to find new content. So you can find new content on Feedly. You can also find new content creating Google Alerts. Now, I don't know if you guys do this, but you definitely should. Go on to google.com/alerts. As you can see from the screenshot, I did it. I typed in mortgage rate, found great content in which I could post, and you receive automatic email notifications when you want to receive them to let you know that new stories have been published about mortgage rate or whatever search terms you want to put in there. And when I did that, I came up with a great article in the Wall Street Journal about high-end home loans staging a comeback, a great article in the New York Times about mortgage rates to stabilize soon, and another one about today's mortgage rates from Wells Fargo. So you can see that I found immediately great content, super good imagery, and I'm be able to post that content. Rule number 3 is to mix up your posts. Don't just self-promote yourself. I made that mistake early on, and I learned from it. Somebody called me out on it, as a matter of fact, early on in building this platform. And what I realized is if I display my leadership, show my thought leadership, being an expert in the productivity space by not only coming out with good content, but sharing good content, that was more effective because it brought more people to my home base and brought more people to my outposts than it did just self-promoting my books and my content, etc. Well, some of the things you can do is use polls. Right? Use polls. There's a great web app called SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is free. Create a survey. What's so good about this is that you could share it on your outposts like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then you not only are able to get people to engage with you, but guess what? You also get their names and their email addresses, so you're building a better prospect database. Provide tips. Again, you guys are the experts here. You guys know when it's time to refinance. You guys know when it's time to be able to, go in with a great mortgage rate. So provide your tips. Showcase your leadership. Right? Ask questions. Provide calls to action. And one call to action you can do, Dave talked about it earlier. I've heard Dave talk about it on earlier Mortgage Coach calls that I listened to in preparing for today's presentation. And promote local events that you host. Partner with Realtors. Create events. It's cheap to reserve a private room in a local restaurant. Provide a lunch and learn. Showcase how smart you are and partner up with real estate agents to do that. And one really powerful way to manage that local event is eventbrite.com. I love this website. I've hosted several citywide events in multiple cities across the Southeast. Leveraged Eventbrite. It's so super simple to create an event, share it in all of your outposts, to be able to get that prospect database in of names and email addresses and what company they might be from. And then you can also create with one click name badges for everybody as they check in. Really super simple. I highly advocate you taking a look at Eventbrite. And when you do these local events, guess what? It provides you a great place to showcase the awesome tools that you guys have access to. I downloaded the Mortgage Coach Edge app on my iPad. These are screenshots from my actual iPad when I was going through the Edge on the iPad. It is really, really cool. It's amazing that you could come up with super rich graphics like these and a video all in one app. So really cool. And also this, looking at Mortgage Coach Edge online as well. So great ways to showcase your leadership and the tools that you have available to you here at Mortgage Coach. And most importantly, post often. Sometimes I get the question, well, Daniel, is there a good time to post? And the answer is yeah. You can read a lot of statistics that say certain times and days are better than others. But my recommendation to you is to get buff. And what I mean by buff is there's another really great app out there called bufferapp.com, and it really is your friend in social media. What BufferUp allows you to do is to combine all of your various outposts like Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn so that you can post on Buffer, and it will instantaneously go out to all of your various different outposts. They're in turn allowing you to keep your social media platforms topped off even when you're not around. And so I'll give you a good example. People say to me, well, Daniel, I don't have the time in my day to post all of the time. Well, guess what? You don't need to. On a Sunday night, look through Feedly. On a Sunday night, look through your Google Alerts hits that you got. Take a look at the things that have come through on Rate Watch. Put all those things into Buffer and stack them up. All you have to do is give Buffer access to each of your social media platforms, and then it will automatically recommend to you when it should post each and every single day of the week, or you can designate specific times. And then if you install the Chrome app, you can be taking a look at a great web story, right-click on that story and click on Buff, and then what you're able to do is it even provides you analytics. And what's important here when providing you analytics is that it allows you to understand what your audience wants you to post more about. Listen to what they want to say, care about what they want to say. And of course, respond as soon as possible is rule number 4, right? That keeps you engaged. Rule number 5, I also learned this lesson the hard way early on, is be authentic, be real, be genuine, be you, right? When you're posting, make sure that the real side of you comes out. And I've seen as a result of letting people see behind the iron curtain about who I am as an individual, not just as this productivity guy, allows people to connect with me because I'm being much more authentic. And last but not least, to really hone in on this idea, rule number 6, be an expert. Showcase your leadership. Look, you guys are the experts. I said on the pre-call that there's so much news happening in the mortgage industry right now. I don't even know whether or not it's a good time to refi or not. You guys need to tell me, tell your target audience, when is it a good time to refi? When's it a good time to purchase? Should it be a 30-year fix? Should it be an ARM? What should it be? Display your leadership. Okay, so now what? After this call, I want you guys to go out and I want you guys to read or buy for the first time the Getting Things Done book. Build your system. And then from there, begin to build your platform. And with that, Dave, I really want to thank you and the over 300 people on the call right now listening to us and talking about building successful habits to be much more productive, to be much more successful. And as you can see on the screen over here, here's some of my outposts to reach out to me. Dave, I'll turn it back to you.
Right. So first of all, awesome job. Great call. Folks, I've got about 3 more minutes of content that will tie this together, so stay tuned. Also, we are recording this, so it will be on YouTube by the end of the day. But Daniel, bravo, bro.
Thank you, man.
Fire hose of amazing ideas and strategies. So let's talk about this. Okay, we got a lot of ideas. Are we going to implement them? Are we actually going to start using RateWatch every day and delivering an EDS report to every client? I hope so. But here is my message to everybody. And when you need the right leader, somehow they just appear. And I needed a leader to really connect with everybody during this time of chaos. And a man by the name of Phil Black has come into my life. I'm not going to do a long story around how I met him a few weeks ago at the Nike campus, and I'm not going to talk about in detail how he is doing just amazing things. But what I am going to talk about is this guy was a Navy SEAL. For 6 years, he was a trainer of Navy SEALs, and he is still dedicated to helping people prepare to become Navy SEALs. And for me, and again, just the way I'm wired, if you want to be successful, regardless of what the interest rates are, you need to be a Navy SEAL mortgage professional. So one of the things that Phil has is he has a free, totally free, you can sign up for it, how to train to pass the most difficult mentally and physically challenge in military, which is BUDS training, to become a Navy SEAL. And I just watched it because I was curious, what's it take? I just had a natural curiosity. But what came out of it was, oh my goodness, my kids need to watch this. Everybody in the mortgage coach community needs to watch this. Amazing, just training on how to be super successful at anything you want to be super successful in life. In this case, he's training people how to pass Navy SEAL training. So there's 4 videos. The first video is 15 minutes long, and the big takeaway, again, not something that was the first time I ever heard it, but I told it to me in a new way, and the key, one of the keys of this framework to become a Navy SEAL is, what is your why? So if you're going to take action on today's call, if you're going to start implementing Mortgage Coach in a deeper level, if you're going to guarantee that you thrive regardless of what interest rates do, you need to be doing the right things. And if you're going to do the right things, you need to have the right why. When I interview, and I've interviewed folks, hundreds, probably over 500 loan officers I've done a 1-hour interview with over the past 5 years. I do this call, 260 days, however many, it was only 2 weeks a year I don't do this call. So I do a lot of interviews with a lot of people, and the people that are the most successful, they have the right why, and they're getting the right things done. So I ask everybody, what is your why? Why are you going to do the right things now? Figure it out. Make it core to what you do. At Mortgage Coach, we're committed to helping you. I've posted a lot of the links to that video, the links to Daniel Gold's website, the link to a couple books. The Mortgage Coach team, we're here to connect. We're here to help you. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. Show up if you want us to help you use Mortgage Coach, Edge, RateWatch in better ways. And Daniel, you delivered a magnificent call. Folks, sorry we went over a few minutes, but I think it was worth it for me. Hope it was worth it for you. Thank you very much, Daniel Gold.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, guys, so I am going to put up a poll as we wrap up the call. Just let us know how we executed, what you thought of today's call.